Are you a student and thinking whether or not you should go on exchange? Then this video is for you. Hello my friends! Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. I am Farah. I am an interdisciplinary artist graduating this year from Art Academy. Here on my YouTube channel I post mostly videos about my art process, but I also like to chat about whatever interests me. And today we're going to talk about my experience with going on exchange and why I think that was a great thing for me to do. So I was asked by the exchange coordinator at my school if I could give a talk to the students who are considering going on exchange about my experience. Then I thought about, hey, I could also turn it into a YouTube video because I think I have quite a lot of things to say. It was a very long process. I even had to take out an extra year for it, so it was a big decision for me to be able to go on exchange. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that today. So first I will share my experience, then afterwards share my takeaways and tips on making this decision. Also, I think this video is from my experience as an art student, of course specifically catered to art students, but I do think a lot of things will also be helpful if you are a student from another studies. So what did I do? Where did I go? And why did I go there? So I really wanted to go on exchange. I love traveling, and I already before I decided to study this, I really wanted to go on exchange. And then when I heard that my studies did exchanges to other countries and cities, I was like, yay, I really want to go on exchange in my third year. And I would preferably want to go as far away as possible. So this is more like my personal desire to go on exchange as far away as possible for myself, for like being in a different culture. I would have really wanted to go to a warm climate, like maybe near the beach. But I ended up going to Switzerland, and I'm from the Netherlands, so that is not so far away. So how did I end up going to Switzerland? The process for me of going on exchange was very long and also very frustrating. I had applied to go on exchange, and I had applied for specifically one that was more catered towards theater, and because what I do is mostly performance art. It was quite difficult because my academy had like a list of schools that they have a contract, and a lot of these schools were very focused on visual arts, and my school also is very focused on visual art, but it's super free. So I do mostly performance art, and you are allowed to do that, but I don't really get any classes in performance art. So my idea was like, oh, if I can go to an art academy where they offer me something that is more focused on performance art and on theater or on music, then that would probably benefit my art more. So I kind of had to weigh a bit between whether or not I wanted to study something that I would really enjoy, like being in a different country far away, or if I would choose something that would benefit my art more. So it was a bit difficult because the connections that they had all over the world were quite limited. I didn't get into the first academy that I wanted, and then like my school had this weird system where you could only apply for one. So if you didn't get it, you couldn't go on exchange anymore. And I still really wanted to go, so then I continued looking if I could maybe go the next year. So I eventually took one more year, but it was quite a difficult choice because that means I had to pay tuition one more year, so my student loan is going up. Yeah, I needed to make a choice that I did think that would benefit my art. And then I saw this academy in Switzerland which had major and minor programs, and if you were in a major program you could follow also minor program. Those were from theater department or music department, and this was, I thought in my head, this would be like the perfect solution for me, because then I could go into the major fine arts, and for the minor I could then maybe do theater. So I very heavily applied to this exchange program. So even though Switzerland is not my ideal country I thought to go to, I chose that. And then when I arrived, it turned out that I actually wasn't allowed to take a minor program as an exchange student. And this was totally like wrong communication from that school, because they did tell me beforehand that I could, but it was just still like this new thing that they were doing, and apparently the rules weren't there yet. So, or they weren't clear communicated among each other. So then I was there and I was like, shit, now I chose this and maybe it's not even gonna benefit me. I'm taking a whole extra year. I was very like sad about this, but then I decided to be in this kind of mindset where you still see everything as a learning opportunity. And then I thought, okay, maybe what I could do is still really advocate for myself and send many emails to all the teachers from the music department and the theater department, and really be very like on my shit and really try and find if there's still a class that is like interdisciplinary that I could join. And because I was so on this, I ended up still being able to follow a couple courses from the music department, not from the theater department, unfortunately. They were a bit more strict. But I had sent it like really 7 emails, and one after the other said, no, this is really only for pop students, or which of course makes sense. But I was still hoping that something would come up, and then eventually someone said, yeah, there's this one class that is missing a singer. I think he would be open to an art student. So here's the email address, sent him an email. So I did that, and then eventually I could join 3 classes that were outside of fine arts. So one was a Gorillaz band workshop from the pop department, and it was really difficult. I had to sing and to rap. I learned a lot from this. And the other 2 classes were pop songwriting, regular pop songwriting, and pop producing advanced. Both of those were more like a weekend course, and from those I also really learned a lot. And especially I think to take away from this is, like, for example, the pop producing advanced class I found scary to sign up for, because I wouldn't call myself advanced at all. Like, I know how to use Ableton, I have written some songs. So I had to kind of put on my bold shoes and be a bit like, you know what, the worst thing that could happen is that I feel like an imposter in this class. And the best thing that could happen is that I learned something. Sometimes I did feel imposter syndrome, like, oh, am I good enough to be here? But yeah, I found these 3 classes eventually, and they really helped me with my artwork and the opening up of my art, because now I know that I also really love rapping, for example. So that was really amazing. This is kind of my first point that I wanted to make, is that even though I was disappointed and it wasn't in my head what I thought I needed, because I had this mindset of, okay, we're getting as much out of this as possible, put away shame, put away imposter syndrome. I went into a lot of experiences with positive attitude and let's see what I can learn here. And I think that is great for a exchange. So another challenge that I dealt with in this art academy was that the fine arts department was way different than what I'm used to. My art academy in here in Amsterdam is very loose, very free. I have no classes, we don't have attendance, we don't even have points, like it literally is very free. In the ZHDK, the school I went to in Switzerland, it's not like this. People are very strict on the rules, which I think is just also a Swiss thing. And also on time. I remember one time I walked into the class and I was 2 minutes late, which from my experience is being on time. Like, if I am 2 minutes late here at a class that starts at 12 and I walk in 12:02, I'm one of the first ones there. But in Switzerland it's not like this, and I remember that one time I walked in and the full class was sitting. They were already listening to a lecture, and I had not expected that. So I walk in, like, the door was already closed, and everybody, their head turned and they were all looking at me, and I really felt like, whoa, this is so different. So yeah, that really challenged me, which is also good, which I will explain later, because they had this rule system of like what you're allowed to use, where you're allowed to go. Like, this is a big school, and you had a card that you could get access to every room, and also to like workshops. So at my school we have all these workshops, you know, like wood workshop, ceramic workshop, glass, etc. And oftentimes you could just walk in or you make an appointment, but in Zatanica, in the school there, it's not like that at all. For like ceramics, for example, you needed to follow a 3-day course before you could access the workshop, and you had to sign up for this course, and this course is also only twice per year or something. And then everybody of the whole fine arts department of course wants to take this course, so it's even difficult to get a place on the course. And otherwise you're just not allowed in. And this was really frustrating for me because I have already worked a lot with ceramics, so I know how to use ceramics. I am not gonna make these things in the kiln explode, you know. So I was like, why? I need to be able to make my projects, and they often involve ceramics. So what I learned from that, because what I did was I didn't give up. I went in like 3 times or something, and I asked like the teacher there. At first she was following the rules very much, but then the second time after I went by, she said, you know what, maybe you can make a portfolio of your ceramic works, send it to me, and then I can consider if we can just fire your clay project. So I made this portfolio, I put all my works in there, and then eventually she said, so the next time that I went by, she said, okay, I get that you really want this, and then she accepted me to fire this little object, and then she also put me on the list for the first workshop, and this was very lucky. And I think what I learned from this is that you really have to show that you really want it. Don't give up when you have your first no. Of course you have to be kind, you shouldn't force the teacher to let you in, but I think that is something that I really learned from this, that sometimes things aren't handed to you, and especially after art school, my art academy, everything is so easily accessed that there is one obstacle less, which is amazing if you're a student, because you don't want to focus on these obstacles, you want to focus on the artwork. But being in this different place where it wasn't as free also gave me a lot of persistence and understanding of that it can also work differently, and this will help me for once I have graduated, you know, because there will also be moments where I maybe get a no and I have to be persistent. I think that is now something that I take with me. So I have 2 more points I want to make. I think first, what I want to say also, something that I also struggled with a little bit was the cultural differences, especially around what I said about these rules. People, I feel like, they're very, very respectful of authority. Like, they love rules. Of course, this is generally speaking what I have experienced in this institution. And I noticed that I was different in a way. For example, we had like this theory class, and the teacher would give a lecture, and then after her speaking, then she asked if anybody wants to ask a question. And this was a new, or not new, I think it's very high school vibes for me, and I didn't expect that to be like this. When I have theory class at my academy, my home academy, we also have a teacher who gives information, but you can come in almost at any time to ask a question or to say something, and a lot of people don't raise their hands, you know, it's more conversational. And I kind of learned that this is what people mean probably when they say Dutch people are direct. I never like understood that, but in this class I really realized that during these lectures I would quite quickly like interject. Like the teacher would say something and I would be like, do I agree with this, or do I have any reference, you know, from the back of my mind? And I am just so used to them saying something, so I would either raise my hand or I would speak, or I would respond to the teacher, and she would not be used to that, like, because she's used to people waiting until she's done. And I realized that this is not a conversation, but it's more a presentation. And then also at the end, like at the moment where the students can ask questions, they related to the teacher. So the teacher asks a question or has a point that she wants us to maybe think about. The students will relate their thoughts to the teacher instead of to each other. Sometimes that would happen as well, but not as much as in my academy, where if someone says something, everybody will commune with each other. And the teacher isn't often so much the one who's talking, but it was interesting because I noticed that I was talking a lot compared to the other students, and I am a very active student, but not that active compared to here. So it was strange that I felt too big. I felt like I was almost rude to the teacher, even though I would consider myself a very sweet student, but it's more that I noticed that it wasn't what they expect, and I felt like I had to help myself back a lot. But then, this is what I want to share. What I realized afterwards is that I don't have to hold myself back, because they also want an exchange. They want exchange students because they want cultural interaction. So that also means that I can be me. I can bring my culture and my things that I bring, and that can be okay. I don't have to completely assimilate into their culture and take their politeness. I don't have to take that over. I can just accept that that is how they do it, and I can accept that that's how I do it, and that is beautiful if that can both exist in the same space. Also, in a larger scope of like in my whole life, I feel even more okay with being different than the other people in a space. So if I feel different, let's say maybe I didn't shave my legs somewhere and everybody else did, you know, I feel more okay with the fact that I looking different or I am different, because I am and that is fine. So yeah, that was that. This was all kind of more school related and also personal, of course. But I think on a more personal note, what I would also like to share is what I really liked about going on exchange is that it's kind of this experimentation period where you feel more free to try out different ways of being, because you're not in your usual home and you are not surrounded by your usual people. You are not surrounded by the things that you're used to. So it's very easy to just start a different life in a way, or different habits. It's easy to start new routines. It's easy to start new hobbies because you're not stuck to who you are. You feel more free to step out of that because so many things have fallen and have shifted. So then you can also easily change your other things that you would usually stick to. So for example, for me, I started to cold plunge, and I also started to kind of try out other ways of being, just something I wanted to try out. Like I wanted to be a bit more assertive and make friends more from the place where I reach out to people instead of that people come to me. Quite often I would think like, oh, maybe Farah in Amsterdam would have held back now and would have maybe felt like she was, you know, like doing too much or being too open. But because I kind of had this mindset of let's experiment, let's see what happens, because it doesn't matter. You're gonna leave in 5 months. So why not try it out? And for example, I asked someone to be part of my performance, and I found this really scary because I would normally want someone else to express interest in my project first, and I would kind of feel like I'm asking too much of someone, like hyper dependent Betty, you know. But I saw the girl who I wanted to ask for my performance in the hallway, and I was just like, hey, I wanted to ask you if you want to be part of my performance. Just like very direct. These type of things I would find way more scary in the Netherlands. And I also found it scary there, but because I had this mindset of let's just try it out. Let's see how people respond when I'm a little bit more clear in what I want. And that really worked out well for me. I think that's what I want to conclude this video with, that you will learn a lot of things about yourself and the way you work in the world. And once you're back in your home country, you will still have all these tools. And even though you will be back in your room, back in your city, or back with your friends, I think you will still have all of these qualities that you learned, you felt more free to develop, and you will take them with you. And now, here in Amsterdam, I sometimes still think back about Zurich, Farah, who would maybe act a little bit different upon, this opportunity or this moment. And I will think, oh yeah, that worked out well for me then. So yeah, at the end of my exchange, I was actually very sad and I kind of wanted to stay. And yeah, I think for that, if you feel kind of scared to go because you're scared that then you don't want to leave, or if it's so much fun that you will miss it, which I started really to have, then I would say that that's actually a beautiful thing, because I also had to tell myself, like, it's so much better that I felt sad going back home. It means that I really enjoyed it. And so that's actually the goal. The goal is that you will feel sad afterwards that you have to leave, because it was an amazing experience. My last couple tips would be also to set an intention before you go, to kind of know what your mindset will be during the time there. So like for me, to just see everything as a learning opportunity, from the school, from what I'm getting out of it, to even making friends and exploring how I myself can be in relation to others, and learning, in that sense, learning about myself. I think having an intention like that was something that I could hold on to all the time. And I was quite scared beforehand that I wouldn't make any friends, because you're going to a new place. I didn't know anybody in Zurich, and I was kind of scared that I would be very lonely, but it ended up really like a very social time for me. And I think you just have to trust that you will meet people, and if you're going into it with a very open heart, and also that you take responsibility to go out and meet people, you will make friends. I think everybody who goes on exchange makes friends, because you kind of have to. You kind of have to get out of your comfort zone, and you have to step up to people or say yes to things. I said yes to things a lot in Switzerland, and I think here sometimes I can be like no, because I already have my things here, That's why I'm saying no to things. But I think what is so nice about being in a new place is that you feel free to say yes to things because you have nothing. And I think saying yes to things opens you up and gives you new situations. Also, what I would ask yourself, what do you want to get out of it with your art practice or for your studies? What do you need? What does your art need? What does your study need? Like, what does your future self need for who they want to be in the world? What type of extra things could I find? Can I be a little bit more assertive and maybe send some emails so I could get some more out of it? Yeah, really stand up for yourself and just think about what your art needs. And I think it's nice to, of course, go to a place that, for example, I would have loved to go to a warm place or to a very far away country, because I love just to be far away. But I think it's more important to focus on what your art needs. And you will be surprised actually how much a place can also surprise you, as long as you have a positive mindset about it. I ended up really liking Switzerland actually. I love the mountains, I love like the calmness on the streets, I love the water that I could just cold plunge in every morning, and I really ended up liking also the structure in a way. I liked that I had to be on time, because it made me into a more disciplined person, and I felt like people there had more of a balance of work-life instead of here. I think people sometimes don't make time for each other, and I think in Switzerland, at least from my experience, people really made time for each other, like made time to see friends, made time to see family. But yeah, maybe that's just my romanticized picture of it. A place can surprise you, so I would say choose the school according to what's best for your studies, and just make the best out of the place. So yeah, that is my 2 cents on whether or not you should go on exchange. And I hope in sharing my story that you feel inspired and also that you know a bit more like what's important. So yeah, thank you for watching and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!